Will he or won't he? Should he or shouldn't he? This weekend is the final one in Westchester County Executive Rob Astorino's self-imposed time frame to decide whether he's going to run for governor of New York and potentially take on Andrew Cuomo. He has promised an announcement next week. Well, joining our panel to talk about Mr. Astorino and more, one of our favorites here, the man who served as Astorino's spokesman in his two successful runs for Westchester County Exec, Republican strategist Bill O'Reilly, and who most expect would serve that same role in a gubernatorial campaign. All right, let's see, what can we ask? Oh yeah, is Rob running?
I actually don't know yet.
Oh, come on, will you stop it?
No, I will be surprised if the answer is no. He's actually going to tell his staff, his senior staff, tonight. Okay. He's, but I should say that he is in Binghamton. He's making a speech at the Broome County Lincoln Day dinner. That's not in Westchester County. So if that's any indication, that's probably likely. I'll be surprised if he says no. But anyone who knows Rob knows that he talks to a lot of people. He spends a lot of time investigating things, keeps the cards really close to his vest.
Yep.
And what he said to his staff for the last 2 months was that he would decide by the end of February. We're going right up to the edge, and then he would let us know.
Do you have any plans, let's say 2 weeks from now?
Well, whichever he does, we'll make an announcement at some point next week, whether it's yes or no. Obviously, we're going to have to do that. But you know, being on the press side and on the writing side, I need to prepare for both.
Sure.
Both inevitabilities. So
well, I'm going to give you a chance here to tell Don, Andrew, and I the compelling arguments for it. But I'll do the math so we set the stage, the uphill challenge he's got here, or any Republican in New York. But if Rob gets in, and we believe he will here, you heard it for yourself, look at the latest numbers, and you'll see the landscape that he's up against. The latest Siena poll's got Astorino down 42 points behind the incumbent governor. And what's more, it seems very few voters at this point know who Rob Astorino is. 73% say they don't know enough about him to form an opinion. You can certainly look at that both ways. Astorino, he's not getting a lot of help when it comes to the state brand in the public's eyes. A majority of New York voters have an unfavorable view of the state Republican Party. So with that as a landscape, and obviously all the benefits that an incumbent has, including the cash, I've heard folks who think, as I do, even though I don't agree with a lot of Rob, he's a very talented politician. As in recent times, I don't think I know of a better statewide Republican candidate who's got the assets you need to be a politician. He's easy for people to like. He's quick on his feet here. He comes across as someone that you'd like.
That's right.
That said, I think that's fair, right? He's got a name recognition. He's got an incumbent governor with high favorability ratings. He's got a party brand that doesn't help him. And, oh yeah, not enough people know who he is. How do you overcome those? Because I've had Tom Doherty, our friend, said, I don't know if I'd want Rob to go in if I was close to him because it's such a steep challenge. You don't just work for the guy, you care for his well-being.
That's right, yeah.
Is there a tough debate to say, is this winnable, this thing?
Yeah, we've had that debate over the last couple of months, and I can say he won't get into this thing if he doesn't think it's winnable. He's not a sacrificial lamb. It's never been his nature. In 2009, when he ran in Westchester, we heard the same thing, was that it was impossible to win in Westchester County.
And for folks who don't know, major Democratic registration advantage in the county of Westchester, where Rob is.
That's right. Yeah, it's about 2 to 1. It's actually a little bit more difficult to win in Westchester County, registration-wise, than statewide. So he's heard that before, and then he was supposed to lose in 2013 and won. Then the name recognition is no surprise. I mean, he's been in just one county for the last 8 years, or last 5 years. But that's something that advertising takes care of, free media takes care of, though his name ID will go up over time.
Do you have a number in mind that you need to raise here to have a viable shot?
Probably. I'll make it. He probably needs to raise somewhere in the $15 to $20 million range. We'll never, if he runs, we'll never match Governor Cuomo. I think Governor Cuomo has $33 million on hand now. He'll likely have 40, 45 million, whatever the number is, he can hit that. You don't need as much as the incumbent to take the incumbent down, because at the end of the day, challenges are about the incumbent as much as if Rob runs, I want it to be about him. It's really about the incumbent and the performance. And what Rob has been asking, I think, is the right question around the state, and is New York State winning or is New York State losing? It's a very simple question he's asking people, and by many objective metrics, New York State is losing to other parts of the country.
I got more, but you guys?
Astorino also ran for county executive here in Westchester in 2005,
That's right.
And he lost in that race, and then won the office 4 years later. I'm wondering if that has been on his mind. He referenced it when I interviewed him last week, that he's lost one and he's not afraid to lose elections. Is that possibly factoring in his decision, well, even if I lose this go-round, I've lost before and still won later on?
In 2005, he lost by 14 points when he ran, and then in 2010, 2009 when he ran with the same platform that he's been on for the last 9 years. He won by the same 14 points. It may be something that he factors in, but he wouldn't get in if he didn't think he could pull it off, if he could win. I know him. The thing about Rob is that he doesn't need this. Like, Rob is willing to take risks in politics. He's willing to take stands that always aren't the most popular ones. He's got a strong backbone. And I've heard him say to me many, many times, if people can't vote for me and I lose, so be it. I'll go get another job. He doesn't need this. He'll go out there and try this if he thinks it's right, and he's willing to take the challenge. A lot of people wouldn't, I got to say, but he's a brave guy.
But Bill, you've been in this game a long time. You're very good at this game of politics. What makes you guys think that you can take on a Democratic giant, the son of a Democratic icon, Andrew Cuomo, and live to fight another day after this? You know what Cuomo's going to do to you guys. He's going to pull out every skeleton that's in Astorino's closet.
And to Dom's point, you've heard the reports that Cuomo wants to run up the score. So it's
no
not
question,
that he just wants to win.
Rob has already faced Governor Cuomo's media team. In his re-election race, it was Governor Cuomo's media team that went after Rob. They spent $2.5 million trying to portray him as the Tea Party extremist and all that type of thing.
You ain't seen nothing.
Oh,
yet.
there's no question. There's no question that that's going to pile on. But the taller they are, the harder they fall. And if you start to crack an incumbent, that's no matter who it is, the Goliath could be out there. When they begin to crack, they come down quickly. You either crack them or you don't, and that's what we're going to see.
But let me ask Dominic's question from the other perspective, because we were sitting around this morning trying to figure out what we could compare this race to potentially. And we saw a race in New Jersey for governor last year where there was a very popular incumbent, a relatively unknown opposite party challenger, did not get a lot of internal support, and there's been some fracturing within the Republican Party here, didn't get a lot of national support from outside sources. How is Rob Astorino different than Barbara Buono?
Well, I could say one thing to look at is that for the last several statewide elections, other than the 2010 comptroller race where Harry Wilson ran, there's been a complete mess between the Republican and conservative parties. They've disagreed. There's been very contentious primaries. There's been bad news cycles. It's been a mess. And Harry Wilson was the one exception where he got both lines from the beginning and he went forward. Harry was winning up until midnight on election day. He lost by 1 point. So if you get the parties behind you early on and there is some cohesion there in strategy and the rest of it, you can be in this game in New York, however difficult it is. And I'll add to the difficulty here. When Governor Cuomo won, when Governor Pataki won in 1994, there were 1 million more Democrats in New York State than Republicans. Today, there's 2.5 million more. It's a very difficult state, admittedly. But not everybody votes party. There are certain people that vote party. In Westchester County, 2-1 Democrat.
Listen,
Rob won by 13
Bill,
points.
I happen to think this governor's more vulnerable than a lot of folks do, maybe even at this table. But there's a challenge. I remember we were talking to Rob during the county executive race, and we're starting to talk about social issues. And he's like, and he made the point, it was a valid one. What does really a county executive have to do with social issues?
Right.
And you know what? I said, fair point, and we moved on. You run for governor, all of a sudden, being pro-life in New York State is going to be hard. Gay marriage, all of a sudden, is going to be hard to be opposed to it in a blue state. All of a sudden, that's on the table. How does he navigate that, given the demos of New York?
Gay marriage is done. I mean, he was pro-traditional marriage. That issue's off the table. That's been decided. Abortion was decided in New York State 44 years ago. That's never going to change. The big difference between he and Governor Cuomo is on the late-term bill.
Ask the question.
It's on the late-term bill, and Rob will not sign a late-term bill. He's not going to extend abortions into the 9th month of pregnancy. He won't do it. Governor Cuomo supports that. That's a key difference between them. There are some people who vote on that issue on both sides, but it's a fairly small minority on both sides. Most people like to get a feel of the entire candidate, see where they are, and this is still a race about, if he runs, about economics, about taxes, about New York falling behind the rest of the country. We're 50th in business friendliness, #1 in taxes, #1 most corrupt state in the country.
New Jersey's giving you a run for your money.
Number one in out-migration. We've lost in this state 6 million people in the last 20 years, and not nearly that many have come into the state. Pretty striking numbers.
Curious, Dom and I were talking about this. Andrew Cuomo has managed to get away without doing any interviews basically for the last 4 years, okay? And it's a trick that even we admire here, wherever you fall on the political line. And not only live to fight another day, it actually worked for him. Is there a thought that if you poke the bear, it actually plays because he doesn't like getting poked, and that's a side that doesn't play well on camera? I'm wondering part of the strategy, you made it pretty clear, I get it. It's the math, and the math isn't you'll argue good for New York, but he's co-opted. He might as well be a Republican on fiscal issues, right? He's a progressive on social ones, but he's ticked off Democrats because he's, whether it's cutting taxes or whatever else. Hasn't he immunized himself on that front, Bill, to make it tough to go after him?
He has a little bit of problems on both sides. I mean, the real question are the staggering numbers of New York's decline. And Governor Cuomo seems to be managing New York's decline, and people have to decide whether that's good enough. Is managing the decline okay? Because we're in a state that's slowly, systematically dying. And that's what's happening. We're losing to the south, we're losing to the west, we're losing to the north even. I mean, the state is declining, and he's managing it. So that's the real question there. He's kind of all over the place ideologically, which is fine, but he's taking shots from both sides. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. You talked about his Rose Garden strategy. That's very interesting because one of the first races I worked on was in 1986 when his father, Mario Cuomo, beat Andy O'Rourke. And I remember Andy O'Rourke had that famous cardboard cutout of Mario Cuomo, which he carried through airports of him because Mario Cuomo wouldn't engage. And I think Andrew Cuomo, I suspect, will try and do the same thing, but it's a very different media world today than it was in 1986.
But somehow, some way, he's managed to avoid talking to the three of us here, and I've just about everybody else with anybody. Well, he tried, and there's even some safe issues, but you know what? We said this will never work. He can't live. And, you know, a bunch of folks have put clocks on him, even it doesn't do the trick. So
I say you don't deserve re-election if you don't go on Richard French Live.
Hey,
I'll throw it right down.
That's a good. I like that. Let's go with that. All right, stay with us, Bill. When we come back here, we will go across the river. Andrew referenced New Jersey. Well, we got tapes out now, 9/11 tapes, 9/11 tapes that came out. And it paints an interesting picture of what was going on in Fort Lee during the lane closures here. We'll tell you about that and more right after this.